These words push Capricorn into permanent silence. There are certain words that don't just hurt Capricorn, they silence them. Permanently. Not the kind of silence that comes from anger. Not the kind that lasts a few days and then blows over. This is the silence that rewrites the entire relationship. The silence that means you've been moved from inner circle to stranger in Capricorn's mind, and there's no going back. And the most unsettling part? You probably don't even know which words did it. Because Capricorn won't tell you. They won't explain. They won't give you the closure of understanding what went wrong. They'll just stop. Stop sharing. Stop opening up. Stop being the person you thought you knew. And you'll be left wondering what happened. Replaying conversations in your mind, trying to figure out the exact moment everything changed. Most people think they understand Capricorn. The disciplined one. The ambitious one. The one who has their life together. But what almost nobody talks about is the invisible threshold Capricorn carries. A line made of very specific words that, once crossed, triggers an irreversible emotional lockdown. This isn't about Capricorn being sensitive. This isn't about them overreacting. This is about something far deeper. The carefully constructed defense system Capricorn built to survive in a world that taught them their feelings were inconvenient, their needs were burdensome, and their humanity was secondary to their usefulness. Today, we're going to explore the exact words that push Capricorn into permanent silence. Not because I want you to avoid offending them, but because understanding this reveals something profound about how Capricorn experiences the world, and the price they pay for being the strong one. We're going to dissect why these specific words cut so deep, why Capricorn's silence isn't punishment, but protection, and why, once that silence descends, it becomes nearly impossible to break through. Before we dive in, if you're a Capricorn who's gone silent on someone, or if you've experienced a Capricorn's permanent withdrawal, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. This kind of deep psychological exploration doesn't happen by accident. It happens because people like you want to understand the patterns that shape our relationships. And here's my question for you. Have you ever shut down completely because of something someone said, and they had no idea why? Or have you been on the other side, suddenly cut off by someone's silence? Drop a comment. Let's talk about it. Because what we're about to uncover isn't just about words. It's about the cost of being misunderstood. It's about what happens when the person you thought saw you reveals they never really did. Let's begin. Capricorn is built on one fundamental operating system: emotional self-sufficiency. From an early age, whether through family dynamics, life circumstances, or simply the way their soul is wired, Capricorn learns a critical lesson. You cannot rely on others to hold your emotions. You cannot expect people to show up for your needs. You cannot afford the luxury of being vulnerable because vulnerability gets weaponized. So Capricorn develops something remarkable: the ability to function independently of emotional support. They become the person who doesn't need reassurance, who doesn't need validation, who doesn't need someone to tell them they're doing okay because they've learned to measure their worth through achievement, responsibility, and self-discipline. This trait is extraordinary. It's what makes Capricorn the rock everyone leans on. It's what makes them successful, reliable, trusted. It's why people call them when everything falls apart. Because Capricorn doesn't fall apart. Capricorn holds the line. But here's what nobody sees. This emotional self-sufficiency isn't natural. It's learned. It's protective. It's a response to a world that taught Capricorn early on that their emotional needs were inconvenient. Maybe they grew up in a household where emotions were dismissed. Maybe they were told don't cry or be strong when what they needed was to be held. Maybe they watched a parent struggle and decided they would never add to anyone's burden. Maybe they simply observed that the people who needed others were the ones who got hurt. Whatever the origin, Capricorn made a decision, conscious or unconscious, that shaped their entire emotional architecture. I will never need anyone more than they need me. Think about that for a moment. Imagine building your entire identity around never being the one who needs, never being the one who asks, never being the one who can't handle it. It sounds like strength, doesn't it? It sounds admirable, independent. mature. But it's also a prison. Because what happens when you spend your entire life proving you don't need emotional support? What happens when you become so good at appearing fine that people forget you're human? What happens when your strength becomes so convincing that nobody thinks to ask if you're okay? You become invisible in your own pain. And here's where the conflict begins to emerge. Capricorn desperately wants to be seen. They want someone to look past the capable exterior and recognize the human underneath. They want someone to care enough to ask the questions they'll never volunteer answers to. But they've spent so long building walls that they've forgotten how to let people in. They become so skilled at self-sufficiency that vulnerability feels like betrayal, not of others, but of themselves. So Capricorn exists in this excruciating paradox, wanting connection while being terrified of needing it, craving to be known while being unable to be vulnerable, hoping someone will see through the performance while perfecting the act every single day. And then someone says something that sounds innocent, something that might even sound like a compliment. But to Capricorn, it confirms their worst fear, that nobody sees them, that everyone only values what they do, not who they are, that their emotional invisibility is permanent. And that's when the silence begins. From the outside, Capricorn looks unshakable. They're the one who shows up on time every time, the one who follows through on commitments, the one who handles crisis with calm competence, the one who never complains, never makes excuses, never asks for extensions or second chances. People look at Capricorn and think they've got it all figured out. But that perception isn't truth. It's performance. And the performance is exhausting. Because internally, Capricorn is carrying something that nobody sees, the weight of never being allowed to not be okay. Here's what Capricorn would never say out loud. I'm tired of being the strong one. I'm tired of having to figure everything out alone. I'm tired of people assuming I'm fine just because I don't fall apart in front of them. I'm tired of being valued for what I provide instead of who I am. But they don't say these things, because saying them would shatter the image. And shattering the image would mean losing the only source of worth Capricorn has been taught to trust, their functionality. So instead, Capricorn maintains the facade. They show up. They deliver. They perform. They smile and say, I'm good, when they're barely holding together. They help everyone else through their problems while privately drowning in their own. And the world believes them. Because Capricorn is so convincing that even they start to believe their own act. But beneath that controlled exterior is a human being who desperately needs what they've taught themselves they can't have. Permission to not be strong. Permission to need support. Permission to be seen as more than their achievements. The split between who Capricorn shows the world and who they actually are creates a devastating kind of loneliness. Because when you're always the strong one, people don't think to check on you. When you're always the capable one, people don't offer help. When you're always the one with answers, people don't ask about your questions. Capricorn becomes so good at being self-sufficient that they accidentally train everyone around them to not see their humanity. And here's the crushing irony. Capricorn tests people constantly. They're watching to see if anyone will look past the performance. They're waiting for someone to ask the deeper questions. They're hoping, sometimes desperately, that someone will care enough to see what they're hiding. But most people don't pass the test, because Capricorn hides too well. So Capricorn exists in this state of constant internal contradiction, performing strength while craving to be seen as human, maintaining independence while longing for interdependence, building walls while hoping someone will care enough to climb them. The effort of maintaining this split is immense. It requires constant vigilance, constant emotional management, constant suppression of needs that never go away, they just go underground. And over time, this creates a specific kind of exhaustion, not physical tiredness, but soul-deep weariness. The exhaustion of never getting to rest, never getting to be vulnerable, never getting to be held without having to be the one holding. This is what people don't see when they look at Capricorn. They see competence. Capricorn feels invisible. They see strength. Capricorn feels alone. They see someone who has it together. Capricorn feels like they're barely holding the pieces. And then someone says the words that confirm what Capricorn has feared all along, that this performance is all anyone sees, that their value is conditional on their strength, that their humanity has been erased by their capability. And that's when Capricorn goes silent, not because they're angry, but because they're protecting the last piece of themselves that hasn't been consumed by other people's needs. If you watch Capricorn closely over time, you'll notice something. The same pattern repeats in relationship after relationship, situation after situation. They give everything. They support, they carry, they solve, they provide. They become indispensable. Then they feel taken for granted, unseen, reduced to their function. Then they withdraw emotionally while still showing up physically. Then something specific gets said, a phrase, a comment, an assumption. And then they're gone. Emotionally, permanently gone. Let me walk you through the cycle so you can see it clearly. Phase 1. The investment. Capricorn meets someone, a friend, a partner, a colleague. And because Capricorn doesn't do anything halfway, they invest completely. They show up consistently. They offer support. They become the reliable one, the dependable one, the one you can count on. But here's what most people don't realize. Capricorn isn't just being generous. They're building value. They're proving their worth. They're unconsciously asking, if I'm valuable enough, will you finally see me as more than what I can do? Phase 2. The imbalance. Over time, the relationship becomes one-sided. Capricorn is giving 80%, 90%, sometimes everything. The other person gets comfortable. They start expecting Capricorn to always be the strong one, the one who has it together, the one who solves problems. And Capricorn? They notice. They keep score internally. They watch as the balance tips further and further. But they don't say anything, because saying something would mean admitting they need more. And admitting need feels dangerous. Phase 3. The silent resentment. Resentment begins to build. Quietly. Invisibly. Capricorn starts to feel used. Undervalued. Taken for granted. They start to wonder, does this person actually care about me? Or do they just like what I provide? But instead of communicating this, Capricorn pulls back emotionally. They're still present physically, still showing up, still functioning. But the warmth is gone. The openness has closed. They've already started leaving, but nobody notices because Capricorn is still performing. Phase 4. The test. Capricorn starts testing. They stop initiating as much. They pull back slightly to see if the other person will notice. They wait for someone to ask, are you okay? Or what's going on? Or, I feel like something's changed. But most people don't notice, because Capricorn has trained them so well to expect self-sufficiency. And when nobody notices, Capricorn's worst fear gets confirmed. I'm only valuable when I'm useful. Nobody actually cares about me. Phase 5. The trigger words. And then it happens. Someone says something. Often, it's something that sounds positive. Something like, you're so strong, you don't need anyone. I don't worry about you because you always figure it out. You're like a machine, nothing bothers you. I wish I could be as independent as you. And in that moment, everything crystallizes for Capricorn. Those words, meant as compliments, land like confirmation of everything they feared. You've never seen me. You only see what I do. My humanity is invisible to you. Phase 6. The permanent silence. And that's when Capricorn shuts down. Completely. Irreversibly. They don't argue. They don't explain. They don't give a second chance. They just go silent. Not the silent treatment. Not manipulation. Just withdrawal. Emotional withdrawal. So complete that even if they're physically present, they're gone. Because from Capricorn's perspective, if you couldn't see them when they were there, you never will. This pattern repeats because Capricorn keeps attracting or choosing people who confirm their deepest belief, that they're only valuable for what they provide, not who they are. And the tragedy is, they often don't recognize they're participating in the pattern. They genuinely believe each time that this person will be different. but they're looking for someone to pass a test they never clearly communicate. And so the cycle continues. Over time, this pattern doesn't just affect Capricorn's relationships. It fundamentally shapes their entire life experience. It affects their important choices. They make decisions based on maintaining their image of self-sufficiency rather than what they actually want or need. They choose careers that demand everything because at least their value is clear and measurable. They stay in situations too long because leaving would mean admitting they made a mistake, and mistakes threaten the illusion of having it together. It affects their sense of stability. Ironically, Capricorn craves stability more than almost anything, yet they build their stability on an unstable foundation. The belief that if they're strong enough, capable enough, successful enough, they'll finally feel secure. But external achievement can never fill internal emptiness. So they keep climbing, keep building, keep proving. And the security they seek always remains just out of reach. It affects their long-term emotional well-being. The exhaustion accumulates. The resentment compounds. The loneliness deepens. Capricorn starts to feel like they're living a life that looks successful from the outside, but feels hollow from the inside. They achieve the promotions, the respect, the reputation, but they lose connection to themselves in the process. They become so identified with being the strong one that they forget what it feels like to simply be human, to need, to rest, to be held without having to hold. Here's what happens to consistency when it's built on suppression. Eventually, something breaks. Not dramatically, not obviously, but internally. Capricorn starts to feel numb, disconnected, going through the motions. They function beautifully on the outside while feeling increasingly dead on the inside. And the saddest part? Most people never notice. Because Capricorn is so good at functioning through pain that their suffering remains invisible. They show up to work with a smile while privately falling apart. They support everyone else through their crises while experiencing their own quiet breakdown. They celebrate other people's happiness while mourning the loss of their own emotional authenticity. The long-term impact shows up in choices that Capricorn makes from avoidance rather than desire. They stay in relationships that feel safe but unfulfilling because at least these relationships don't require vulnerability. They build lives around external markers of success because internal fulfillment feels too ambiguous, too risky, too dependent on things they can't control. They create distance from people who actually care because closeness requires dropping the performance, and dropping the performance feels like death. Over years, sometimes decades, Capricorn becomes increasingly isolated within their own life, surrounded by people who admire them but don't know them, respected but not seen, valued for their function but not loved for their humanity. And here's the heartbreaking truth about this long-term consequence. Capricorn starts to believe this is just how life is. That this is the price of being responsible, mature, disciplined. That emotional invisibility is the natural cost of being the strong one. They start to accept that they'll never get to rest, that they'll never get to be vulnerable, that they'll never get to be held without being the one doing the holding. They resign themselves to a life of functional success and emotional solitude, until the moment comes when they can no longer ignore what this has cost them. When the words get said that finally, definitively confirm what they've been afraid of all along. And that's when everything changes. So here they are, the words that push Capricorn into permanent silence. They're not insults. They're not attacks. They're often said with good intentions. Sometimes they even sound like compliments. But to Capricorn, they're devastating. Because they confirm the one thing Capricorn has been terrified of their entire life. You're so strong, you don't need anyone. I never worry about you because you always figure it out. You're like a rock, nothing ever shakes you. I don't know how you do it. I could never be that independent. You don't let anything get to you, do you? These sentences sound innocent. But here's what Capricorn hears. Your pain doesn't matter because you're supposed to be strong. I've never actually considered that you might be struggling because you hide it so well. I've reduced you to your function, and I'm comfortable keeping it that way. Your value to me is your ability to not need me. I've never seen you as human. And in that moment, something inside Capricorn doesn't break. It locks. Permanently. Because those words prove what Capricorn has feared all along, that despite everything they've given, despite how consistently they've shown up, despite years of hoping someone would see past the performance, they've remained invisible. Their humanity has been erased by their capability. Their personhood has been consumed by their function. They've become a tool, not a human being. And once Capricorn realizes this, once they hear it confirmed in your words, there is no going back. Because from their perspective, if you couldn't see them when they were there, you never will. This isn't anger. This isn't punishment. This is Capricorn making a choice to protect what's left of their humanity by withdrawing from people who can't see it. The silence that follows isn't the silent treatment. It's not manipulation. It's self-preservation. It's Capricorn deciding that being alone is less lonely than being with someone who only values what you can do. It's Capricorn choosing invisibility on their own terms rather than experiencing it while surrounded by people who claim to care. It's Capricorn finally, definitively, closing the door on the hope that this person might be different. And here's what makes this so devastating. Capricorn doesn't want to do this. They don't want to cut people off. They don't want to live behind walls. But they're protecting something sacred, the last piece of themselves that hasn't been consumed by other people's needs. The fragile belief that they deserve to be seen as more than their achievements. The quiet hope that somewhere, somehow, someone might love them for who they are, not what they provide. And staying connected to someone who can't see that difference slowly kills that hope. So Capricorn goes silent. Not to hurt you, but to survive you. This is the cost of being the strong one. This is what happens when emotional self-sufficiency becomes your identity. This is the price of being so good at appearing fine that people forget you're human. And the most tragic part? Most people never understand what they lost. Because Capricorn was so good at seeming okay that their absence doesn't create crisis, it creates silence. A silence that says everything Capricorn could never. If you're a Capricorn watching this, I want you to hear something that maybe nobody has said to you. Your strength is real. Your discipline is admirable. Your ability to carry weight is extraordinary. But you are not just your strength. You are not defined by your ability to function through pain. You are not valuable only when you're useful. You are not required to be unshakable to deserve love. You are human. You are allowed to need. You are allowed to not be okay. You are allowed to rest without losing your worth. The pattern you've been living, this cycle of giving everything, feeling unseen, and then shutting down, it's not your fault. It was a survival mechanism that helped you navigate a world that taught you your feelings were inconvenient. But you're not in survival mode anymore. You're allowed to choose differently now. And choosing differently doesn't mean being weak. It means being brave enough to let people see you. The real you. The one who gets tired. The one who needs support sometimes. The one who doesn't always have it together. That version of you isn't less worthy. It's more honest. And the people who deserve you will love that version even more. Because here's the truth. The right people don't want your performance. They want your presence. They don't want your functionality. They want your humanity. They don't need you to be strong all the time. They need you to be real. And if people leave when you stop performing, they were never yours. They were in love with what you could do for them, not who you are. Let them go. Because the people who stay, the ones who see your vulnerability as trust, not weakness, those are your people. Those are the ones worth keeping. You've spent your whole life proving you're strong enough. You don't need to prove it anymore. You've already done it 1,000 times over. Now it's time to prove something else. That you're brave enough to be seen. That you're courageous enough to need. That you're strong enough to be vulnerable. The words that pushed you into silence came from people who couldn't see you. But that says nothing about your worth and everything about their limitations. Your job isn't to make yourself visible to people who choose not to see. Your job is to find the people who want to see and let them in. I know it's terrifying. I know it feels like betraying everything you built. But living behind walls isn't protecting you anymore. It's isolating you. And you deserve connection. Real connection. Not based on what you provide, but on who you are. You deserve to be known, not just needed. You deserve to be loved, not just valued. You deserve to be human, not just functional. And the first step is recognizing the pattern, seeing it clearly, understanding why you do it, and then slowly, carefully, choosing something different. Not with everyone, not all at once, but with someone. One person who's earned it. One person who's shown they can hold your humanity without needing you to be perfect. That's where healing begins. So here's my question for you. What words have pushed you into permanent silence? And if you're on the other side, have you ever said something to a Capricorn that made them withdraw, and you never understood why? I want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments. Let's create a space where Capricorns can finally name what's been unspoken, where they can say what they've been holding in, where they can be seen. Because this isn't just about astrology. This is about the invisible cost of being the strong one. This is about what happens when you spend your life being what everyone needs while nobody asks what you need. This is about the silent suffering of functional people. And if this resonated with you, if you recognize yourself or someone you love in this pattern, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a like. Share this video with a Capricorn who needs to hear this. Because content like this doesn't spread by accident. It spreads because people like you recognize the truth in it and want others to feel less alone. Before you go, I need you to watch the next video in this series. Because we're going deeper. We're going to talk about what happens when Capricorn finally decides to drop the performance. When they finally choose themselves. When they finally let the walls come down. It's called What Capricorn Becomes When They Stop Being Strong for Everyone. And if this video resonated with you, that one will transform you. Also, I want to know, which phrase cuts deepest for you as a Capricorn? You're so strong, or you don't need anyone, or something else entirely. Tell me in the comments, because understanding which words trigger you most helps you recognize the pattern faster. And to everyone who's accidentally said these words to a Capricorn, this isn't about making you feel guilty. It's about helping you understand what happened. So you can repair it if possible, or at least understand why the door closed. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being willing to see what most people miss. Remember, your silence isn't the problem. It's the consequence of not being seen. And you deserve to be seen. I'll see you in the next one.